Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's deep dive. Have you ever taken a few days off from the gym, looked in the mirror, and panicked a little bit because you felt like your muscles were literally shrinking right before your eyes? Honestly, it's an incredibly common fear. So many of us get trapped in this super stressful mindset that if we aren't constantly working out, we're just losing all our hard-earned progress. But what if I told you that the actual science paints a completely different picture? Today, I am so excited to guide you through the really fascinating research behind muscle growth, muscle maintenance, and the actual worst training frequency that leads to muscle atrophy. We're going to look at some extensive data, including systematic reviews and studies from leading sports science institutes, to figure out exactly how much you need to train, and honestly, more importantly, how much you need to rest. Whether you're a busy professional, a beginner who's worried about burning out, or really just someone who wants to train smarter instead of harder, you are absolutely in the right place. Here is a quick roadmap of what we're covering today. We'll start with frequency misconceptions, then move on to why training volume is the real key. After that, we'll cover muscle maintenance for busy people, followed by the worst frequency that actually causes atrophy. Then we'll map out some sustainable weekly schedules and wrap it all up with a summary and actionable steps you can take today. All right, let's jump right into section 1, frequency misconceptions. Because as we're about to see, more is definitely not always better. We really need to confront one of the biggest myths in the entire fitness world, the idea that more gym days automatically equal more muscle. I mean, for decades, the prevailing culture has kind of told us that true dedication means training 5, 6, or even 7 days a week, right? We've basically been conditioned to believe that rest is a sign of weakness. But when we actually dig into the scientific literature, this whole more is better philosophy quickly falls apart. In fact, forcing yourself into a high-frequency routine when your body just isn't ready for it or when your daily schedule simply can't sustain it is literally the #1 reason beginners get frustrated and quit entirely. So I want to ask you a question and just answer honestly in your head. Do you truly believe that working out 6 days a week will give you double the results of working out 3 days a week? It sounds logical. Double the days, double the muscle. And honestly, this exact question has sparked massive debates among athletes, coaches, and sports scientists for years. To finally settle this, researchers decided to put it to the test in a controlled clinical setting. They directly compared different training frequencies while monitoring muscle growth, and what they found completely revolutionized how we design training programs today. Let's look at the fascinating results of a really pivotal 2018 study out of Oklahoma State University. The researchers took 28 trained individuals and split them into 2 groups. Group A trained 3 days a week, while Group B trained 6 days a week. But here is the major catch. Both groups performed the exact same total amount of work by the end of the week. So after 6 weeks of grueling training, the researchers measured their muscle mass. And the result? It was a dead tie. There was absolutely no significant difference in muscle hypertrophy between the 3-day group and the 6-day group. And this wasn't just a one-off. A broader 2016 meta-analysis from the City University of New York echoed this exact same thing, showing that from the perspective of scientific literature, as long as you train a muscle at least twice a week, bumping the frequency up to 3, 4, or more days does not magically create more muscle. The science is incredibly clear here. You absolutely do not need to live in the gym to see amazing results. Moving right along to section 2, the key is training volume. This is the true driver of muscle growth. So if the number of days you spend in the gym doesn't matter nearly as much as we thought, what actually drives muscle growth? Well, this brings us to a massive paradigm shift in fitness science. The secret isn't frequency, it's something called training volume. As long as you hit your target training volume for the week, how you actually slice up those days is almost entirely up to your personal preference and your schedule. And honestly, this is incredibly liberating news for anyone who struggles to find time to work out every single day. Let's break down exactly what training volume is so you can start using it right away. The formula is beautifully simple. Training volume equals weight multiplied by reps multiplied by sets. Let me give you a really concrete example so it's perfectly clear, especially if you're just starting out. Imagine you're doing squats. You lift 100 pounds for 10 repetitions and you do 3 sets of that. Okay, so 100 times 10 is 1,000. 1,000 times 3 is 3,000. So your total training volume for that one exercise is 3,000 pounds. To build muscle, your overarching goal over time is to just gradually increase this total volume. You can do that by adding a little more weight, pushing out just 1 extra rep, or adding another set. By tracking this super simple math equation, you basically take all the guesswork out of your progress. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is this: equal volume equals equal gains. Let's say your goal is to hit 6,000 pounds of volume for your legs this week. You could knock that out in 2 heavy, really intense sessions of 3,000 pounds each. Or you could spread it out over 4 lighter, quicker sessions of 1,500 pounds each. Biologically speaking, your muscles respond to the total mechanical tension placed on them over the course of the week, not the specific calendar days you happen to visit the gym. This is huge because it means you can design a schedule that prevents you from burning out and giving up. If you hate being in the gym for an hour and a half, do short workouts more often. If you have an incredibly busy work week, do a couple of slightly longer sessions and take the rest of the entire week off. As long as the math adds up at the end of the week, your muscles are going to grow. That leads us perfectly into Section 3, muscle maintenance for busy people. Let's talk about the minimal dose required.
We all know what it's like when life throws a curveball. Maybe you have a massive project at work, you're traveling, or you're dealing with a sudden family emergency. You simply do not have the time to hit your normal training volume to build muscle. This is exactly where people usually panic and just assume they're going to lose everything they've worked for. But let's look at the actual science of muscle maintenance, the absolute minimum dose required to preserve your hard-earned physical performance. According to a really extensive 2021 review conducted by the U.S. Army Research Institute of Environmental Medicine, to maintain your muscle size and strength as a younger adult, you only need to train a muscle group exactly 1 time per week. Literally just 1 session. The researchers found that you can reduce your exercise frequency by up to 66% and your exercise volume by up to 66%, and you will still maintain your endurance and strength for up to 32 weeks. Now, for older adults, generally folks over 60, it might take about 2 sessions a week to fully maintain muscle size. But for the vast majority of busy professionals out there, 1 single focused day is completely enough to freeze your progress right in place so you don't lose a single ounce of muscle.
I just love this because it brilliantly illustrates how wonderfully resilient the human body is. To maintain muscle, the absolute minimum effective dose is incredibly low, just 1 set per exercise, 1 day a week. However, there is a very strict, non-negotiable rule attached to this. While you can drastically drop your frequency and your volume, you absolutely must keep your training intensity high. In scientific literature, intensity usually translates to load, the actual physical weight you are lifting or the sheer effort you're exerting. If you usually squat 200 pounds, you can't just drop down to 50 pounds and expect to maintain your muscle size. You have to lift that 200 pounds, even if it's literally just for 1 set a week. And hey, what if you're stuck at home without any special equipment? You can absolutely still maintain your muscle using bodyweight calisthenics or partner-assisted exercises. The secret to an efficient routine in a limited space is maximizing the load on the muscle by using perfectly strict form. For example, if you're doing push-ups, slowly control that negative downward motion over 3 or 4 seconds and push your effort as close to complete muscle failure as you safely can. That incredibly high-intensity effort is exactly what signals to your body that the muscle is still required for your survival. Now we have to cover the flip side in Section 4, the worst frequency-causing atrophy. Welcome to the danger zone of overtraining. Let's establish the real warning of this whole deep dive. We've proven that taking days off won't destroy your muscles. So what actually causes muscle atrophy? What is the literal worst possible training frequency? Well, it's not training too little. The absolute worst thing you can do for your muscles is training too much without allowing your body to actually recover. True muscle atrophy, where your muscle fibers literally shrink and break down, happens from a lack of recovery, not a lack of daily training. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, but wait, when I take 3 days off, my muscles definitely look smaller. Okay, that is an illusion. When you work out, your muscles fill with blood and water, which is a phenomenon known as the pump. Muscle tissue is roughly 60 to 70% water. When you rest for a few days, that excess fluid just leaves the muscle, making it look a little bit flatter. You are losing temporary water weight, not actual muscle protein. True muscle loss occurs when you train a muscle continuously, tearing the fibers day after day without ever giving your body the 24 to 48 hours it desperately needs to synthesize new protein and rebuild. You're basically digging a massive physiological hole and never allowing your body to fill it back up. And overtraining doesn't just ruin your muscles, it ruins your daily life by wreaking havoc on your central nervous system. So how do you know if your frequency is too high and you're entering this danger zone? You need to look out for these 3 scientifically backed physical signs. Number 1. Poor sleep on training nights. Working out normally improves your sleep, but overtraining spikes your cortisol, your body's main stress hormone. If you train hard but find yourself staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m. unable to sleep, your nervous system is overcooked. Number 2, subjective fatigue, or hitting an RPE of 10. RPE stands for rate of perceived exertion, which is a scale from 1 to 10. If every single workout feels like a 10 out of 10 in difficulty, and you constantly feel utterly exhausted in your day-to-day life, your body is breaking down. Number 3, failing the talk test. This is an incredibly simple standard approved by the American Council on Exercise. After a working set, you should be able to speak in short sentences. If you are totally gasping for air and can only speak in single, broken words long after your set is over, the physiological load is way too high. If you regularly experience these signs, your high-frequency routine is actually causing your muscles to shrink.
So let's fix that in Section 5, Sustainable Weekly Schedules. It's time to find your sweet spot.
How do we avoid overtraining and build a routine that actually practically works? The secret is finding a sustainable weekly schedule that perfectly balances your training volume with high-quality rest. Because remember, muscles do not grow in the gym. They grow in your bed while you sleep and on your couch while you rest. So here are 2 highly effective, beginner-friendly weekly schedules that leverage this biological reality. First up is the 2-day split. Let's say you train on Monday and Thursday. This is absolutely incredible for busy people who need a short, intensive menu. You can do a very focused full-body routine on these 2 days, sticking strictly to multi-joint movements, think squats, lunges, and push-ups, to maximize the load in a limited amount of time. The absolute magic here is the 5 rest days. By utilizing those rest days correctly, prioritizing 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and managing your daily fatigue with light active recovery like walking or stretching, you give your muscles the perfect environment to synthesize protein and repair those micro tears. The second option is the classic 3-day split, training Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. This provides a really beautiful, consistent rhythm for beginners, which massively prevents giving up. You train a muscle, give it 48 hours to fully recover, and hit it again. Managing your daily fatigue is just so much easier with these schedules, creating the ultimate biological environment for your muscles to be maintained and grown efficiently.
And that brings us to our final section, summary and actionable steps. Let's talk about what you can do right now. We have covered a tremendous amount of sports science today, from totally debunking the 6-day-a-week myth to really understanding the deep, critical importance of the resting phase. So let's distill all of this data into a clear summary and look at the actual steps you can implement into your life starting today to ensure you are training smarter. Step 1, calculate your weekly training volume. Literally grab a notebook and using that formula we talked about, weight times reps times sets, figure out exactly how much work you are doing for each muscle group. Step 2, choose a sustainable schedule. Please stop trying to force a 6-day routine if it's making you miserable. Pick a 2- or 3-day schedule that fits effortlessly into your life, which prevents you from ever wanting to quit. And remember, if your busy life gets completely crazy, just 1 hard set a week with great form will maintain your progress. Step 3, prioritize rest and constantly monitor your body. Pay close attention to your sleep quality and your subjective fatigue. Start treating your rest days with the exact same respect and discipline as your training days.
Now, before we wrap up, it is very important that I mention this mandatory disclaimer. The scientific studies and the volumetrics we discussed today highlight averages and general human physiology, but individual results are absolutely not guaranteed. Every single body is unique. Your age, your genetics, and your personal medical history play a massive role in how you respond to exercise. Therefore, please be sure to consult a qualified fitness professional or a medical expert before starting or drastically changing any exercise routine. Safety, proper form, and personalizing your fitness plan should always be your top priorities.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to carry with you this week. We live in a world that completely glorifies exhaustion and constantly equates movement with success. But your body requires balance. Your muscles literally demand peace, sleep, and recovery to grow stronger. So looking at your calendar for the days ahead, I have to ask you, will you just blindly work out harder this week, or will you use the science we've learned today to rest smarter? The choice is entirely yours, and I really hope this explainer has given you the knowledge and confidence to choose wisely. Keep learning, keep growing, and I will see you in the next one.